If you'd have told me a few years ago I'd become a local legend for unleashing a cow-powered apocalypse in the suburbs, yeah, I'd have laughed in your face. But let me just say this right up front. If you ever want to see how fast a Karen can go from HOA president to neighborhood exile, all you need is a stubborn streak, a little engineering know-how, and about 200 gallons of farm-fresh revenge. You think I'm exaggerating? Buckle up, because by the end of this story, you'll be rethinking every parking feud you've ever seen. See, for me, buying a house was the mountaintop. I grew up crammed in a city apartment, 4 of us stacked into 3 bedrooms, thin walls, constant noise, sirens, neighbors yelling bass so deep it rattled your fillings. My room was basically a curtained-off chunk of living room that smelled like dust and whatever cleaner my grandma swore by that week. So when I landed my civil engineering gig and finally signed the mortgage on a 2-story colonial in Oak Creek Estates, I walked around that place like I'd landed on the moon, ran my hands over granite counters, breathed in the smell of fresh-cut grass, listened to my own footsteps echo through empty rooms. Privacy, real privacy, felt like a fairy tale finally coming true. I gotta say, at first, it was everything I dreamed of: peaceful green neighbors who mostly waved and minded their business. Dave across the street brought over a 6-pack and we chatted about fertilizer. Honestly, it was beautiful in its boring normalcy. I was the only black guy on my cul-de-sac, and yeah, I clocked that, but I just wanted to blend in, mow my lawn, and not make waves. But you know, every suburban paradise has its serpent. Mine was named Carol, the president of the HOA, unofficial queen of the cul-de-sac, and owner of a laminating machine that I'm convinced she kept right next to her bed. First time I heard from her. Wasn't even a hello, just a laminated note tucked under my wiper about how I'd violated bylaw. 7 Section C, Paragraph 2, by leaving my recycling bin out 17 minutes past curfew. I mean, really, who does that? You know what I mean? She could have knocked. Instead, it was instant bureaucracy, all Times New Roman and time-stamped, like she was running the FBI. Picture this Carol late 50s helmet hair that could survive a tornado wardrobe straight from the suburban dictator section at Kohl's. She strutted the block with her clipboard, making notes, policing grass heights and mailbox colors, the whole 9 yards. And then there was her son, Kevin Lanky, entitled and proud owner of a bright red Ford Explorer with rims worth more than my first car. The thing was, Carol's driveway was packed, so guess where Kevin started parking? That's right on the edge of mine. At first I shrugged it off. Who wants to be that guy yelling about a few inches? But then it was both tires, then the whole front end, then he was just blocking my garage outright. So I took the neighborly route, caught Carol out pruning her roses with scissors that looked like surgical instruments, and tried to keep it friendly. Hey, Carol, mind asking Kevin not to block my drive? Had a bit of trouble getting out yesterday. She just stared, lips pressed so thin I thought they'd vanish. Are you saying my son is lying to me? She snapped. I tried to laugh it off, but she just dismissed me like I was overreacting about nothing. Sure enough, the next day, Kevin's Explorer was practically doing a victory lap across my driveway, and that right there was the beginning of our little Cold War. I tried notes. I tried talking to Kevin. He just shrugged and said, "My mom said it was cool." My patience was evaporating. Then Carol started sending more laminated notes, this time about a garden gnome my sister gave me. Apparently, Bylaw 12 forbade whimsical statuary. Meanwhile, Dave had a whole flock of pink flamingos, but sure, let's target the new guy, right? I could feel the narrative shifting. Suddenly, folks weren't waving anymore. Carol must have been working overtime with her clipboard, and rumors painting me as the neighborhood villain over a parking misunderstanding. I started to feel like a trespasser on my own patch of earth. And then came the morning that broke me, a huge day at work. Big city contract presentation. I'd been prepping for weeks. I was up early, suit pressed, lucky tie, ready to go. I hit the garage door at 7:25, and there it was, Kevin's Explorer, not just over the line, but parked sideways, blocking me and bumper to bumper, no way out. That was no accident. That was a message. I pounded on Carol's door, nothing. Called the cops, sure they could send a tow, but I'd have to pay and it'd be 90 minutes. Called an Uber, 25 minutes. I watched my career opportunity slip away, trapped by a teenager with zero respect and a mom who thought the world owed her family a little extra space. Something in me snapped. I missed the meeting, lost the contract, tanked my credibility at work. I sat at my window all day, burning inside, and that's when the plan was born. I'm a civil engineer. Water waste topography. It's my bread and butter. If Kevin wanted to treat my driveway like public property, well, I'd introduce him to the natural consequences nature, with a little help from Old Man Hemlock's dairy farm, 40 minutes outside town. I drove out there, made small talk, and convinced him to let me scoop up 4 55-gallon drums of bottom-scraping cow sludge, sticky dense and sporting a smell you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy. Friday night, Kevin had his usual party explorer parked diagonally across my drive, his friends lined up down the street breaking every bylaw Carol ever wrote. I waited until 2 a.m., then went full engineer coveralls, gloves, respirator, pressure washer, modified into a high-powered sludge sprayer. I worked like an artist, covering every inch of that cherry red SUV in a layer of vengeance so thick you couldn't tell the make or model. When I finished, that thing looked dredged from the bottom of a prehistoric swamp. Next morning, I was up with the sun, sipping coffee, acting all casual at the mailbox. Carol came strutting down in neon pink eyes, scanning for violations, then froze when she saw it. I swear her clipboard hit the sidewalk before she did. "Kevin," she shrieked, and within seconds he came stumbling out in pajamas, only to gag and nearly pass out when he caught a whiff. Carol pointed at me, wild-eyed. "You did this? This is vandalism. I'm calling the police." I just smiled and said, "Morning, Carol. Lovely day, isn't it?" The cops arrived, one young one world-weary. Carol wailed about hate crimes and biohazard, but the officers just looked at the scene, then at me and shook their heads. "Is this your property, sir?" "Yes, officer. Cars parked here without your permission." "That's right." The sergeant turned to Carol and said, "Motive isn't proof, ma'am. They told her to take it to a car wash and that I could have it towed at her expense." Carol was livid. Kevin looked like he'd witnessed the end of days. But here's the kicker. Getting that Explorer off my driveway was its own comedy show. I refused to let a tow truck on my property, so Carol, Kevin, and a dad I'd barely seen had to push the 2-ton stinkmobile into the street, slipping and gagging the whole way. The tow driver showed up, took one whiff, and tried to back out until Howard slipped him an extra 100. After that, Oak Creek Estates changed overnight. Carol's iron grip was broken. I got high fives and bourbon from neighbors who'd always wanted to stand up to her. The flamingos came back, garden gnomes popped up everywhere, and Dave was elected new HOA president. First order of business, abolish the anti-gnome bylaw. Even better, Carol and her family put their house up for sale within a week. The trail of sludge down the street actually got her fined for public mess, not me. You couldn't script better karma if you tried. A week after they left, the new neighbors asked if their kids could ride their trikes on my driveway. I told them, "Go right ahead." That stretch of concrete had become more than just parking. It was a monument to setting boundaries and defending them. Now, I did see Carol again, believe it or not. 2 years later, I'm lead engineer for the county, sitting in on a meeting for a huge development project. Up steps Carol, binder in hand, trying to argue about drainage and retention ponds, only now I'm the guy in charge. The look on her face when she realized who I was, priceless. I calmly explained every flaw in her argument using the very expertise she'd tried to steamroll years before. She left that meeting defeated, binder closed, and I realized then sometimes the best revenge isn't just living well. It's being so damn good at what you do that even your old enemies have to respect you. So tell me, was I out of line? Would you have gone nuclear or just let Kevin park wherever he wanted? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I know this is going to spark a debate about justice, boundaries, and maybe even the proper use of cow manure in suburban warfare. And hey, if you've ever gone toe-to-toe with a real-life Karen, I want to hear your war stories. Smash that, hit subscribe, and let me know what country or city you're watching from, because this battle isn't over, and I'm sure there are plenty more Karens out there just waiting for someone to stand their ground.